Let's be honest, most pitchers are wasting thousands of dollars every year on in-person pitching lessons that barely move the needle. They're driving across town once a week, throwing for 30 minutes, hearing the same 3 cues every lesson, and wondering why they're not getting any better. The truth, in-person pitching lessons are outdated, ineffective, and massively overpriced. In this video, I'm going to break down why that is, what the data says about skill development and training frequency, and how today's top pitchers are getting better results without ever stepping foot in a traditional lesson. If you've ever felt like you're working hard but not getting anywhere, this video will explain exactly why and how to finally fix it. My name is AJ Martucci. I'm a certified trainer, coach, and former 90-mile-per-hour pitcher at just 5 foot. I've worked with hundreds of athletes all across the country through my online program, the Underdog Velocity Program, helping pitchers break through plateaus and add serious velocity with a complete system that actually works. If you're serious about results, then there's an application link in the description to see if you're a good fit. It only takes a few minutes, and I only accept players who are ready to put in the work. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about why the in-person model just doesn't work anymore. In-person lessons are mechanic-based only. That's it. You show up, you throw 20 to 30 pitches, and coach spends the entire time talking about your arm path, your front leg, or where your glove should finish. But here's the problem with that approach. You can't build a complete pitcher by focusing on mechanics alone. If you've seen my full breakdown on the pitcher's pyramid, you already know that there are 5 key pillars: strength, mobility, rotational power, arm care, and mechanics. In-person lessons only touch one of them. 1, they ignore your strength foundation, they ignore your mobility and movement quality, they ignore rotational power, how you actually produce force, and they almost never address arm care outside of some basic band work. So what you're really paying for is 1/5 of what it actually takes to get results. That's like trying to bake a cake with just flour. You're missing everything that makes it rise. But even if we just look at mechanics, the model still falls apart. Because when you're in a lesson, you can't see yourself. You're relying on the coach's words or watching him demonstrate positions that you're supposed to be getting in, and half the time, you physically can't even get into those positions yet because your mobility, your strength, or your sequencing just won't allow you to. So now you're being told, get your arm over here, or stay back longer, or use your legs more, which never actually work. You try to overcompensate, your timing falls apart, and you end up throwing a wild pitch instead of actually making progress. That's the flaw in the entire in-person model. You're trying to feel your way to change instead of actually seeing it. That's why video feedback and slow motion analysis have completely changed the game. When you can see what your body's doing frame by frame, you finally understand the difference between what you think you're doing and what's actually happening. That visual awareness is what creates real mechanical change. And that's something you'll never get in a 30-minute bullpen session. And here's the kicker. Mechanical issues are usually symptoms, not causes. If a pitcher can't hold his posture or rotate his hips, it's not because he needs a new mechanical cue. It's because he's missing strength or mobility underneath it all. So when you only work on mechanics, you're trying to fix movement patterns with words instead of solutions. That's why you see pitchers go to lessons for years and barely improve. They're learning what to do, but not fixing why they can't actually do it. The in-person model simply doesn't give you the tools or the time to build the foundation needed for real change. It's a surface level fix for a deeper problem. And that's why serious pitchers are moving away from it. They realize that if mechanics are just one part of the pyramid, then ignoring the other 4 is like leaving 80% of your potential on the table. Now let's outline the science behind why the old in-person model just doesn't hold up anymore and why modern training methods produce faster, long-lasting results. Skill development in any sport, baseball, golf, even music, comes down to one thing: frequency of feedback. How often you practice, how quickly you get feedback, and how accurately you can adjust. When you take a 30-minute in-person lesson once a week, you're getting feedback only once every 7 days. This means for the next 6 days, you're training blind. You're just guessing. You might be repeating the same mechanical flaw over and over, and you don't know until your next lesson the following week. By that time, that flaw is already a bad habit. And habits are what hold pitchers back from ever throwing harder. The science of motor learning tells us that true skill improvement requires repetition with immediate feedback. If you only get coached once a week, your brain doesn't retain the adjustments long enough to turn them into a new movement pattern. You're just resetting every lesson. Now, forget the cost for a second. We'll dive into that later. Even if the lessons were free, training once a week for 30 to 60 minutes and only focusing on your mechanics will never make you a high velocity pitcher. Why? Because high velocity is built through daily repetition across multiple systems: strength, mobility, arm care, rotational power, and mechanics. Not a few quick cues once a week. You can't expect to increase velocity if your only touch point with a coach is a 30-minute bullpen where they say, use your legs more, or stay back longer, or get your arm up sooner. That's not training, that's troubleshooting. It's like trying to learn guitar by taking one lesson a week and never practicing the right way in between. You'll never master that skill. That's exactly what's happening to pitchers all over the country. They're paying for lessons that can't physically produce results because the frequency and feedback loop are too limited. In contrast, remote training fixes this problem completely. When you're training with daily structure and getting feedback within 24 hours whenever you need it, you're reinforcing progress every single day, not once a week. That's how real velocity gains happen. Because the truth is, mechanics alone won't create a high velocity pitcher. It's the integration of all 5 pillars, the ones inside the pitcher's pyramid, that builds explosive, durable, repeatable velocity. So when people say, yeah, but it's not the same as being there in person, they're right. It's not the same. It's better. Now let's talk about what nobody ever wants to admit: the money trap behind in-person pitching lessons. If you're working with a coach who actually knows what he's doing, you're paying at least $100 an hour, and that's on the low end for somebody with real credentials. Most pitchers go once a week, so that's $400 a month, or about $4,800 per year. And that's for 30 to 40 total hours of instruction over the course of an entire year. Now, let's break down what you're actually getting for that money. You're meeting once a week, you're focusing on only mechanics, and every session you leave with a couple cues to work on until you go to the next one. No structured strength training, no mobility work, no arm care, no rotational power development, no long-term tracking or even accountability. So when you really think about it, you're paying nearly $5,000 a year to address 1/5 of what it takes to actually throw harder and stay healthy while you reach your potential. Now, imagine if you got that same level of instruction every single day. If you paid a private coach $100 per hour to train you 7 days a week on all 5 pillars of the pitcher's pyramid, strength, mobility, rotational power, arm care, and mechanics, you'd be spending over $36,000 per year. That's the real cost of one-on-one coaching done the right way. And that's what makes the old model outdated. Because the truth is, you can get the same level of support and more through structured remote training. You can have a coach watching your mechanics, programming your workouts, building your arm care, and holding you accountable every single day for a fraction of the cost. It's not even close. Now, I know some people try to cut costs by doing group lessons, and I get it. You're trying to save money. But what you save in dollars, you're losing in potential. Because in a group setting, you're not getting coached. You're getting everyone coached. You're one of 5 or 10 pitchers getting the same generic cues, and that's where progress stalls. You might hear the word mechanics a lot, but nobody's addressing the individual things that are actually holding you back. Your hip mobility, your lower half timing, your arm path, or your strength foundation. It's like trying to follow somebody else's prescription. It might work for them, but it's not going to fix your problem. And that's the real trap. You end up spending thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours chasing generic feedback instead of getting a plan designed specifically for you. So if you think about it objectively, the old in-person model just isn't efficient. It's the most expensive way to make the slowest progress. That's why serious pitchers, guys who truly want to reach their potential, are shifting towards comprehensive systems that cover every part of their development, not just one. Because results come from structure, not sessions. Now let's tackle the most common objections I hear when it comes to in-person pitching lessons versus remote training. Because I get it. Being with the coach in person feels valuable. You get to shake hands, talk face to face, maybe even feel like you're working harder because somebody's standing next to you. And there's absolutely value in that. I'm not denying it. But here's the truth. If you need a coach standing over your shoulder every step of the way just to stay consistent, if you need somebody physically there to keep you motivated, it's not going to work out for you anyway. Because becoming an elite pitcher isn't about having your hand held. It's about having the discipline and drive to show up and do the work every single day, even when nobody's watching. That's what separates the good from the great. So yes, in-person coaching can feel comforting, but comfort doesn't create growth. And that's the difference between lessons that make you feel busy and a system that actually gets your results. Now let's talk about mechanics, because this is where remote coaching actually blows in-person training out of the water. When you're in a live session, you're reacting in real time. You throw a pitch, the coach tells you, use your legs more or stay closed longer. And by the next pitch, you've already forgotten half of what he said. You can't see what you're actually doing. You're just trying to feel a way to fix it. But with video analysis, everything changes. You get to see yourself in slow motion. You can replay the delivery frame by frame. You can compare it week to week, month to month, and actually chart your progress as you go along. That kind of feedback is objective. It's not based on memory or feel, it's visual. You can literally see improvement happening right in front of you. And that's what allows you to make real adjustments fast. Instead of guessing what staying closed means, you actually see it. You understand it, and you can fix it instantly. That's why mechanical training is actually more effective through video analysis, because you're not just reacting in the moment, you're learning. You're becoming aware of your body and your movements in a way that actually sticks. You can revisit that same video whenever you want. You can reference the feedback as you train. You can literally build your delivery with visual checkpoints and make every rep purposeful. That's the power of remote coaching done right. It's not about removing the human connection. It's about multiplying the feedback loop so you can grow faster. In-person lessons might show you what to do once a week. Video analysis shows you what's really happening every day. So yes, being in person might feel more personal, but being consistent, accountable, and visually aware will always be more powerful, because real progress doesn't come from standing next to your coach. It comes from applying what you've learned over and over until it becomes automatic. And that's exactly what the modern system allows you to do. The game has changed. For the first time ever, you don't need to live near a big facility or drive an hour each way to see a coach or spend thousands of dollars on lessons to get elite level training, because remote coaching has completely leveled the playing field. It's more cost effective, it's more consistent, and when it's done right, it's actually better than in-person training. You're no longer limited by geography or access. You don't have to rely on whoever happens to be local to you, because let's be honest, a lot of areas don't even have coaches who truly understand pitching development. Most pitching coaches are former players passing along what they were taught 10 years ago. And while their intentions might be good, the game has evolved. Science of training methods, the technology, it's all light years ahead of what the old school model can offer you. Now a high school pitcher in a small town with no access to professional instruction can get the same high level coaching as somebody training in a big facility across the country. All you need is a phone, a camera, and the discipline to show up. That's what makes this generation of players so dangerous, because the gap between the haves and the have-nots doesn't exist anymore. If you're motivated, if you're hungry, if you're serious about living out your baseball dreams, you now have a direct path to do it. You don't need connections. You don't need to live in the right zip code. You don't need to have someone in your area that knows what they're talking about. You just need guidance, structure, and accountability, and the willingness to put in the work. That's what remote training gives you. Every drill, every workout, every mechanical adjustment is designed specifically for you, your strengths, your weaknesses, your goals. And instead of waiting a week to get feedback, you're getting real-time analysis from a coach who knows what it takes to reach the next level. That's not the future of training, that's the present. Pitchers who are adapting to this system are the ones getting ahead. The ones who cling to the old way, driving to weekly lessons, paying too much for too little, hoping that things eventually click, they're the ones being left behind. Remote training isn't just a new option, it's the new standard. Because for the first time ever, every motivated pitcher, no matter where he lives, has the opportunity to reach his full potential. If you've watched this whole video, I hope you took something valuable from it. Because the truth is, I wish this kind of training system existed when I was in high school. Back then, all I knew was the old model. Weekly lessons, the same mechanical cues, and the constant feeling that I was putting in work, but not actually getting closer to my goals. I didn't have daily feedback. I didn't have structure. I didn't have somebody guiding me through the full picture, strength, mobility, arm care, power mechanics, like we do now. And looking back, it would have changed everything for me. That's why I make videos like this. Because if you're a serious pitcher who's been working hard and not seeing results, you deserve to know that there's a better way. The game has evolved. Technology has evolved. And for the first time ever, you can train like a high-level athlete from anywhere in the world with personalized coaching, daily accountability, and real progress you can actually see. If you learned something from this, good. That was my goal, to open your eyes to what's possible when you train the right way. And if you're sitting here thinking, I want to make the most of the time I have left, you're already in the right mindset because your baseball clock is ticking. Every season that goes by is another opportunity you can't get back. And I don't say that to scare you. I say it because it's real. You only get one shot at this. So take what you've learned here and start applying it. Train smarter, be intentional. And if you want help putting it all together, if you want a customized plan built specifically for you, the application for my program is in the description box below. It doesn't take long to fill out. And if I think it's a good fit, I'll personally reach out to you. But even if you don't apply, I hope this video gave you some clarity, confidence, and a new sense of direction on how you train. Because when you approach the game the right way, you can achieve way more than you think. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped you, and I'll see you in the next one.